Hello everybody, welcome into my latest live video. Today is Wednesday, the 23rd of February, 2022. My name is Kerry Holzman, and it's a late night broadcast for us here on the West Coast. I hope you guys, well, I suppose it's even later on the East Coast, but I hope you guys are had a good day, or perhaps starting your day in other parts of the country. Today I have a computer that is not working, that was requested of me by someone local to take a look at. And that's what we're going to do today. We'll talk a little bit, first of all, about what this machine is. This was the ultimate gaming computer for this customer. I guess it's about a year old. It was $5,300, $5,300. It has two graphics cards in SLI. I don't know why. Nobody really uses that anymore. And the gentleman who owns this computer is 75 years old and enjoys first-person shooters, so we don't see that too often. And he says the system's about a year old and it's no longer starting up anymore. So this is also his first AMD system. He's always stuck with Intel before. He thought he'd try something different with AMD. Whether or not that has anything to do with today's problem, I guess we're about to find out. And let me just make sure I've got some settings here checked correctly in OBS. They just released a new version, but it mostly looks the same. And thank you to Temp, who contributes $5 says, "Hey Kerry, love your channel." Thank you. Thanks for supporting the channel. Planet Cryos contributes $2, and those two folks kicked us off here with those nice contributions, and hopefully we'll have an educational show today. Ryan Grady joins in the chat. Speaking of, I had a package in the mail the other day. I have an LGA 1700. This is a G6900 CPU. These are the budget line CPUs of the socket 1700. Sorry, that's 1700? Yeah, and that's socket 1200 here. And this is a, what is this? I have to get my glasses. A G5905. And there's a letter, and the letter says, "Hey Kerry, in continuing our tradition of me sending you Intel Celeron-based CPUs for testing, I would like to include these two CPUs as well. Thanks again for all that you do. Apologize for being MIA lately. Life has been chaotic to say the least, but I always go back and watch the live streams I missed. I hope all is well. Thanks again, longtime viewer, Ryan Grady." Ryan is in the chat room right now. Thank you, Ryan. He says, "Also, the computer I received from you has been running flawlessly for months now. A real workhorse. Thanks again." If you remember, Ryan is the one we did the Leon Lee build for, and Ryan has been so generous. I think he also recently ordered a forensic drive eraser, so or data recovery tool. So I'll be looking forward to receiving that so I can reuse it. But these are great. Ryan had sent me some older CPUs like Celerons that he said, you know, you should have these for testing motherboards if you're not sure if you got a bad CPU or not. And I thought, you know, he's exactly right. And there were at least 3 occasions where I did end up using those for testing. And now he's just updating the collection to include the latest motherboards. It's very thoughtful. So socket 1200 and socket 1700 boards. I didn't even know these were out yet. I knew there were going to be more 12th gen, but I haven't been paying attention. So this is obviously a 12th gen chip here. This, you know, it's on the low end. The G6900. LGA 1700. Didn't even know it was released. So thank you as always, Ryan. It's so kind of you to send that stuff and be so thoughtful. I like to keep stuff like that on the shelf for just that reason, to test motherboards, to verify if we have a bad CPU or a bad board when it comes down to that level of diagnostic. Now today's system is an AMD, so those won't be helping us today, but I imagine we'll be seeing them more so in the future. $50 from Planet Cryos. Hey, thank you so much, Planet Cryos. He says, let's get our fix on. Agreed, let's do this. So this machine is built by a company called LYTE Gaming PCs. Anybody ever heard of them? I've never heard of them. And apparently they're out of Chicago. That's all I know. It's got an Asus Prime motherboard in there. And I imagine the price was so high because he's got 2 graphics cards. Now, why they sold him 2 graphics cards is beyond my understanding. SLI mode is mostly a thing of the past. It's not really being utilized much. The owner of the computer hasn't even so much as taken the plastic off the sides of the glass, so we'll just leave that as is. That's really just meant to be there to keep the glass from getting scratched during shipping. Once it's in the hands of the end user, it's intended to be removed. However, you know, if you want to keep the plastic on it, I suppose there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the glass panel. We're going to take a look at the inside, and then I'll plug it in and we'll verify the symptoms the customer describes, which, as I understand it, the system powers on and the screen goes black, and that's all she wrote. And he's got a lot of money in it, and he doesn't want to mess with it, and he doesn't want to deal with anybody else. And he's never worked with me before, but he's been watching the channel quietly, and apparently is a fan and really wanted me to build this system. He had contacted me last year, and I said, I can't take on any more work. And he went ahead and ordered it elsewhere, and I suppose now he's a bit remorseful of that because of this problem now. And I don't know, $5,300 is a lot of money for a gaming rig. And I would have talked him out of the 2 video cards. 1 is enough. 2 is ridiculous and over the top. Barry Klein contributes $10. Hey, thank you, Barry. Let me find a place to put this glass panel. I guess I'll just put it right over here. Ghost Shadow said that they sell them 2 video cards because of commission. I wasn't there. I have no idea how that conversation went and how he was convinced into buying 2 video cards. The whole thing of pairing 2 video cards together was a thing, but by this time it was already past being a thing. These fans down here are completely worthless, in my opinion, and these fans up here are also worthless. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fans plus, well, these fans up here are for the liquid cooler. Those have to be there. Therefore, if you've got a liquid cooler in here and it's blowing air out the top, which is what it's doing, then you don't need the rear fans. But it looks like these are put here for aesthetic purposes. What's interesting is that these bottom fans are blowing air in. The front fans are blowing air in. The rear fans are blowing air out. The top fans are blowing air out. So as far as that goes, they're all in the right orientation, but these fans are totally unnecessary. And I am surprised that it didn't create a heat issue potentially with this graphics card, because we've got fans, I'm imagining, there's got to be fans on the underside of this card. This is what, a GeForce, I can't tell, RTX something. He's got an EVGA power supply. It looks like it's a 1,000 watt power supply. And he's got, here's what's interesting, he's got a Team Group NVMe SSD, an XPG RAM. What I find interesting about this, at this price point, is that this is very budget RAM. This is a very budget SSD. So you wouldn't expect anything to be budget on a $5,300 build. So they obviously have a lot of profit margin built into this. This is horrible cable management here. I don't know how well you can see this, but it's not ideal. Again, at $5,300, I would expect something to be perfect, something to be beautiful. Let's, take a look at the other side of it here and see what it looks like for the cable management in the back, because if it's anything like the front, it's not going to be pretty. And again, if you're spending that kind of cash, yeah, this case was not ideal. You see all these cables, 80% of these cables are just his fans and RGB. That's all that is. It's pointless, and the case is pretty shallow to have that many cables. It just really wasn't the best case choice for this build, in my opinion. They've got the fan controller, an RGB controller there, and it just, look, they've left the wire ties here. They didn't replace it with zip ties. This, to me, is a poorly done job. I would expect, if you're dropping more than $4,000 on a build, that somebody would show you enough respect to at least peel the plastic off of the internal components and to clean up the cable management. So here we've got that piece of plastic should not have been left on. That should have been removed by the builder. These cables are just slopped in there. They should have used a nicer power supply, maybe some cable combs. Again, when you're at this price point, this is unacceptable. That's just crazy to me that a company could take that kind of money from a customer and deliver that. You know, it's fine if you're going to use budget RAM and a budget solid state drive in order to increase your profit margin. But at the very least, you should take a little pride in your work. Normally, we don't run the tubes for the radiator out towards the back because it blocks the fans. Normally, these tubes should be on the other side. It's also unsightly. They might have been doing that because they didn't want the tubes to go over the RAM because it's RGB. Just not really well thought out, in my opinion. This looks like, it doesn't look like a professional built this. It looks like somebody did him a favor. Hey, my son builds computers. He'll build you a system. That's what this looks like. Again, if this was a budget build, then, you know, this would be expected. But this wasn't a budget build. This is a $5,300 computer last year. Now, for all I know, $4,200 of it was the video cards. I'm not sure which video cards he's got in here. There's Zotac and they're RTXs, so they were expensive. That's for sure. I just don't know. It looks like they might be 3080s. He's got the bridge here. This has mostly been canceled. SLI, for the most part, isn't being supported in any modern games. And in all likelihood, he's not getting any benefit to this. He would be better off, in my opinion, to pull one of these video cards and sell it and try and recoup some of his expense here. And I imagine he's not even going to know it's gone. It won't make any difference in the performance. It's very unlikely he has any games that support SLI. So this is disappointing, you know, and I feel bad because he would have bought a high-end computer from me had I taken the time to really listen to what he needed and what he wanted, but I was getting overwhelmed with work. And a lot of people, you know, believe it or not, I have a lot of people that reach out to me and they want to build something cheap. And I'm like, you know, I don't build cheap computers, right? I mean, that's not what I do. I can set you up with something that's going to be really good for the price. But I'm not the guy you call when you want something as cheap as possible, unless what you want is a really good bargain on a mid to upper range computer. So I wouldn't have spec'd anything out like this if he'd have talked to me. Let me rephrase, if I would have talked to him, I would have said, okay, this is not a good time to buy a gaming computer. We're going to have a hard time getting the cards. You should probably just go with a pre-built somewhere, because you're going to get a better price on the graphics card in a pre-built than you're going to get on the open market right now. So I might have just pointed down the path of a pre-built, but this was custom built. You understand? This wasn't pre-built in the sense that it's already done. He talked to somebody and designed the system, told him what he wanted and what his budget was, and this is what they came to an agreement on. And I'm sure when they discussed it, they probably didn't discuss brands. Other than the CPU, they probably didn't discuss the brand of the solid state drive or the memory. They might have, but in my experience, they don't normally. They just go, you know, 64 gigs of RAM and, you know, an RTX 3080 or whatever. They don't say necessarily that it's Zotac. Did they even take the plastic off for that one? It's hard to tell. It kind of looks like it's still on there, but maybe not. But the bottom line is, even after spending that kind of money, we have a system that's not working after a year. The systems that I build that you see here, they work for many, many, many years. And if there's a problem, I always make a video showing the diagnostic of what went wrong with my system. That very rarely happens. Now, maybe it very rarely happens with them. I don't know, but they, as a professional organization out of Chicago, I'm sure they're selling a lot more computers than I am. But there's just no excusing that cable management. That is embarrassing. Bad case choice. All right, so that's what we're working with tonight. Let me get it plugged in. Let's turn it on. Let's see what it does. We'll go from there. I have a sneaking suspicion it has to do with these SLI graphics cards. Not only are they expensive and consuming the entirety of this case, he can't even really use them in most games in SLI mode. Not anymore. Not in 2022. That's all but been abandoned. So that's a real shame. But he can, the cards are worth a lot of money. I'm sure if the cards are okay, he could sell one of these cards for a pretty penny right now. And like I said, he most likely won't even know it's gone. If anything, the computer will be lighter and more reliable. It'll cost less money to run. It won't use as much electricity. But let's see here. I could be wrong. I'm speculating. But I'm not aware of any games running SLI anymore. Even when the games did support SLI, it usually had some negative side effects that were just never able to remedy, and that's why they eventually gave up on it. And what you can get out of a single RTX card is more than what you were getting out of SLIing GTX cards anyway. So here we are. Okay, so there's power, there's video, there's the keyboard and mouse. Let's fire this bad boy up and see what she does here. Motherboard RGB is lit up. We got a power button up here. Ooh, something doesn't sound good. What is that noise? I'm stopping each fan with my finger just momentarily because I hear a ticking. And this, oh, these are not RGB up here. Isn't that interesting? They went RGB all the way around the front, the back, and the bottom, but not on the top. Now the ticking sound just magically went away. And this has a, this smells like a litter box. So I imagine the person that owns this has cats. It smells exactly like a litter box, which is not pleasant. I've had some people online say that I'm rude to smokers because I mention how much it smells when a smoker brings me their computer. This is the first time I've had a computer that smells like a litter box, and people think it's rude that I'm somehow insulting people by mentioning the smell. If I don't shower and I don't wear deodorant and you have to sit next to me on a bus or a plane, I think it's inconsiderate to force somebody to, there goes the ticking, to force somebody to have to endure you. And some people get nose blind and they just don't know. They're used to it. But when you bring it into a clean environment, this house here has no pets, there's no smokers, and so it smells through the entire house. And it takes, I have to burn incense and get the smell out. You need to understand this if you're going to work as a tech. That's just part of what comes with the job. I'm not here to, insult somebody. It's just what it is. It's not my fault. And I'm not going to ignore it. That's a part of the job. But I also think people don't realize the imposition it may be putting on other people. So if they didn't know, now they know. And if they do know and they don't care, well, then too bad. It's not a condition of working on a computer that it has to smell pretty. So if you're going to do this for a living, you need to get accustomed to There's different smells that they can give off, and it can permeate whatever your work area is for days. So there were times when I had computers. I had one computer that was so filled with cigarette smoke, I had to put it in the garage. It was affecting the ability for other people in the house to breathe. And it's like the smokers are, oh, I'm so offended. Well, you're offended. They almost had to go to the hospital. How do you think they feel? So that is sort of a consequence that comes along with the job I don't think many people talk about. Now, this thing is loud, very loud. I think maybe all the fans are running at 100%. I want to switch over to the HDMI and see if we're getting any video out of it. Hey, there's Peter Laycock. He contributes 50 pounds. He says, good morning, Kerry, and everyone in the chat room from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh is 34 degrees Fahrenheit. You know what, Peter? Oh, he says it's snowing. We have been cold all day today in Phoenix. It's been in the 40-degree Fahrenheit weather temperature all day. When at about 9:30 this morning, it was 46, and it got up to about 49. It's been raining, and it's been overcast. It's Michigan weather today. So I'm okay with it, but it's been raining off and on all day today, and it never got to 50 degrees. The hottest it got was 49, and it's back down to around 46 or 45 right now. So I don't get to say that very often here in Phoenix, but I'm glad it's there. Temp with another $20 Australian says, hey, Kerry, from Melbourne, Australia, here is some more. Well, thank you very much. And welcome in Melbourne, welcome in Scotland. Dag says I should charge more for smokers. That's messed up, man. I don't. It is what it is, right? But it's just a part that comes along. If you ever watched a YouTuber called Greg Salazar, and he does a dirty PC cleanups, he'll often talk about some of the smells he encounters. It could be musty, moldy smelling, cigarettes, any sort of pets, ferrets, cats. You don't usually have a problem with dogs, but I guess if you had a lot of dogs. Michael Dane in our chat room says he just did his 100th computer refurb build, this time for a veteran and his family for his schooling and his family needs. And this time it was an Intel i7 7700K computer. That's a 7th gen. Right on, Michael. That's awesome. Just keeps, it's 100 computers Michael has given away to people in need in his community. What an inspiration. XRod666 contributes $10. He says, hey, Kerry, how you doing? Is that a dual GPU IC? It is. It is indeed. Let me step back around the counter. I've got to get a different feed up here. There's John Jack Wilson joining us. Hey, welcome in, Jack. All right, let me go over here to my OBS. Let's bring up the HDMI input, and let me put myself in a corner here. So as the customer explained, we've got no signal. Let me just shut it off. Oh, wait a minute. It did get a signal. It did boot. Let's bring it back up again. Let's watch it boot this time. That's interesting. He said he wasn't getting any video at all. And those fans are running awfully fast, awfully fast. Oh, maybe not. That was way louder. Let's see if we get a good boot out of this. Now, look, yeah, here it is. He says he wasn't getting this far. Keith Jones says, I'm with you, Kerry. It stinks up my house when I work on clients' computers that have those issues. Sometimes it's better to work on it at the customer's house. Oh, he's got a dual boot on here? Why did he do that? What do we... That's probably why. We have Windows 10 on volume 2 and Windows 10 on volume 4. Why does he have two Windows 10s? Let's see what it does here. Well, it booted up instantly here. So we do have a password protection on this computer, but it is booting. It is not doing what the customer said it was doing. And the customer met me outside with the computer already unplugged and ready to go. I don't see anything wrong with it. This apparently is not a problem. They could have a bad cable to their monitor or a failing monitor. But I don't like how loud the system is. There's certainly recommendations I would make. So let's talk about that. I'm going to turn this off so you can hear me better. Whew, that thing is loud. So here's basically going to be my suggestions for the client. Whoops. There I am. One, get rid of some of these fans. I would remove the 3 bottom fans. I would take them out. Boom, boom, boom. Get them out of here. I would also take out these 2 rear case fans. I want you to think about this. Think about this logically. If we're moving air from here through here, or just picture this. If the air is coming in from the front and it's moving straight, these fans are almost in direct alignment with each other. It's going straight through. What is it cooling right here? What's it going to cool? What's that air going over? The RAM and the water block. Well, the water block doesn't need any air going through it because it's being cooled liquid. So what needs air going over it? Things that get hot. So maybe the SSD, really not really. Really not really. That's what I said. He doesn't need 2 graphics cards. There's no benefit to this. So I would pull the graphics card, I'd pull these 3 fans, I would pull these 2 fans. So we're going to pull, I would pull 5 fans. There's probably 3 fans on the underside of this graphics card. Pull the bridge, and then maybe we upgrade the solid state drive. What size is that? I cannot see it from here. I don't know. It doesn't say on the sticker. I'll have to boot it to find out what size it is. But generally speaking, on a build like this, I would have recommended a higher end Samsung performance-based drive rather than a budget drive. I don't have a problem with the budget RAM, really, especially as finicky as Ryzen can be with RAM. I'm a little concerned about what's going on here. That's a weird mounting mechanism. It looks tilted and bent. I don't know. Well, that's a tough call. He's not overclocking it, so I don't know why he'd want a liquid cooler on it anyway. So let me take this back. I would take the whole radiator and liquid cooling system out, leave the 2 fans here, and just put a tower cooler right here. Just a black tower cooler like a side Mugen 5 will probably do the job. That's what I would do. Yank the liquid cooler, doesn't need it. That means you remove the radiator up here and the 2 fans. That clears all that space and weight out of it. Pull the video card, pull 3 fans, leave these 2 fans and those 3 fans. That's it. He'll have a much quieter system. Yeah. You see there's an additional 4-pin power connector for overclocking that's not even plugged in. Again, at this price point, I would have expected a Seasonic or a higher end name brand power supply. This is not a budget build, so it doesn't make any sense other than the price of the individual graphics cards. And why he got 2, I don't know. I think he might have been convinced that there was more benefit to that than what there really is. So the system's more complex than it needs to be. I'm a big fan of keeping everything simple, and to have it overly complicated for no apparent reason other than he's talking to a salesman is what it appears. So salesman did his job, or her job. But That doesn't mean they're scam artists or rip-off artists. It's just I have a different value system in my business. I don't like whatever this is. There's like some kind of weird hole in the back with wires running through it. I don't know what that's for. It's ugly. I don't like this case. I don't like it one bit. If I were to do this, I would put it into a different case, something bigger, more deserving of this level of components. Maybe a Be Quiet Pure Base 600 or, I don't know, but something that would give me better cable management options than this. An NZXT H710, something along those lines would be far better suited to this level of rig than what they've done here. So I don't agree with it, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people. Don't get me wrong, they could be bad people. I've never heard of LYTE Gaming PCs. Have any of you ever heard of them? But this is my first impression. I think they don't do a good job. It wouldn't, if I hired them, I would have to retrain them or I would have to let them go, because I would not put a computer out the door at this price point, at any price point with a cable management job like this. Look at the intertwining of the cables. Look at how they overlap and twist around each other. Imagine that you have to change this power supply. Let's say, it's probably a modular power supply. It is. But let's say you're going to go to a different power supply. So these modular cables have to be replaced. Look at all the work you're going to have to do to get those cables out. That's going to be a big job. Sometimes you see a job and you're like, I'm just going to start over again. It's more difficult and time consuming to try and fix it. But the way they've got the cables twisted in on themselves, what is this? What's going on here? Why isn't this tied down? It's just haphazardly put together. And I feel bad for the gentleman who purchased it, but it was his decision. You know, he made that decision. I didn't have any input on this whatsoever. He didn't ask me my opinion. He made this decision all on his own, and you know, apparently he's been happy with it right up until it wouldn't boot for him anymore. And I think that happened like 2 months ago, so he hasn't used it for a couple months. David Griswold said, I built a system in the new Lee Dynamics Evo case. So cool to have both my systems on desk and see both windows, and it actually looks cool all upside down. I don't like building in the inverted cases, but to each his own. Stefan A. contributes 20 Canadian dollars, says, greetings from Montreal, Canada. The weather is 8 degrees Fahrenheit with ice everywhere. It's funny when I had to go to the grocery store and I just go out just like I'm dressed. I don't put on a jacket. And everybody's got jackets on. And I'm like, really? It's like in the 40s. It's a little brisk. I wouldn't want to be out here for a long time, but it's not like I had to put a jacket on to walk from the parking lot into the grocery store. So just, you can kind of tell who's from Arizona and who isn't, because you'll see somebody walking around in another t-shirt like me and no jacket, and you're like, yeah, they're not from Arizona either. But later on, when the sun went down, then I had to put a jacket on. But as long as the sun was up, and it was overcast, but sometimes, you know, it was off and on, so the sun would poke out a little bit now and again, and it was warm in the sun. But anyway, yeah, we should see what these video cards are. I'm kind of curious. What do we have here? I could probably just fire the machine up. Well, I don't. I'd have to put in the password and log into Windows to look at the device manager. Let's just do it this way. Let's pull the bridge. That should just pull straight off. Just some fancy little bridge. Remember, that used to just be a cable, and now they put it in some fancy little housing. And I guess the top card is going to be, well, I got to be honest, I really, really would like to remove the bottom card and keep it out. Now, here's an interesting situation. How do you get the screws out? The screws are in an angle. Not a good case. Not a good case at all. And I don't know how I'm supposed to release this graphics card. I don't know that it can be done. The release mechanism is down in the back. This is an impossible thing to do without pulling the top graphics card out first. And there's a screw missing. There should be a screw right here to hold in this top graphics card. It's not there. So you have all the weight of the graphics card being held in with one screw. So the deeper I look at this, the less impressed I am. These people should be ashamed of themselves putting their... If you're going to build a computer like this, I would advise you to not put your company name on it, because this makes your company look terrible. Customer said he's never taken the side panel off of it, ever. So this is exactly how he received it. Okay, here we go. What do we have? Still doesn't say. Nothing. Just says Zotac. It doesn't tell us what it is. Hold on, there's a label down here. Let's get some glasses. We have a cooling fan here. This must be an X570 because those had cooling fans on the chipset. That cooling fan can't breathe. Not with this graphics card there. And this graphics card here, where's it getting its air from? That's not good. Not a good design. Oh, wow. I'm just going to hold this up. I'm not even going to say it. This is like holding a bar of gold. Or not a bar of gold, but like a Cougarand, I think, costs as much as this card. A 1 ounce gold coin. Can you guys read it? I'm trying to hold it steady. It's heavy. Now I can reach the latch for the other card right there. That latch isn't budging. There it goes. There we go. Why? So when I took the two screws out for the bottom card, it looks like they only used one screw to hold in each card, and the other screw I took out was for this PCI slot cover. So they made sure that the little PCI slot cover had a screw, but the $2,000 graphics cards, that's what I'm going to guess. He probably paid $2,000 a piece for the graphics cards and then $1,300 for the rest of the parts here. I've got to guess. Even that doesn't quite add up because, well, depending on what CPU he's got, it's not an expensive motherboard. An X570 Pro, those what, 200 bucks? The case, I don't even know what this case is. But I'm not a fan of the case at all. You see, the screw won't go in straight. There's no way for me to align that screw because I can't go at it head on here. So Yeah. Look at how the cable management, see, he's got the USB 3.0 cable going over the fans. Look at this. Look at the pigtail is still on the zip tie. It's like they did that on purpose to tuck it in underneath the fan shroud, which is profoundly unprofessional. That's just not how we do it. Now, normally you have a USB 3.0 up here. Now, see, this motherboard came with USB 3.1 for a Type-C, but they sold him a case that doesn't support that. So not only is the case not allowing for any cable management consideration, it doesn't allow for the Type-C connector that he paid for with the motherboard. So this case is not appropriate for these parts. So the manufacturer really dropped the ball here. What is this for? That's USB, but where's it going? This is USB. Where's it going? We have two different USBs up here. Okay, I guess one is for the top end. One's USB 2. There's a pair of USB 2, a pair of USB 3s. That's what it appears to be. And in the other USB, there should be one for the cooler. Yeah, I don't like this at all. And another reason why these fans don't belong here. What you have to understand is there's nothing underneath these fans. There's nothing under here. On this side, there's a power supply, and this is a very long power supply. It goes to about here. So these two fans, for the most part, are pulling air from the top of the power supply, which has no holes. The power supply is its own environmental ecosystem in that air comes into the power supply from the bottom of the case and then is evacuated out of the back of the power supply down here. It never takes air from inside of the computer, nor does it put air inside of the computer. So there's no point for these fans to be blowing air up. There's no point to that. If you have these three fans bringing air in this way, the last thing you want to do is push the air coming in up, which is then going to these fans and pushing it out before the air has a chance to actually do anything over your components. So if there were three fans, just these three fans bringing air in this way, and these two fans also moving the air out the back, then you'd have a clean airflow going over your graphics card, over your solid state drive, and even over a CPU cooler, an air cooler, in a clean, efficient manner that not only looks better, but it wouldn't involve so many cables. If you're going to be in a case that doesn't afford you the opportunity to have proper cable management channels built into the case, then you probably want to have as few components as possible, right? But instead, they did the opposite. They maxed out every fan location, and then each fan is also RGB. So that's 2 cables per fan, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 cables just in fans. Just in the fans. So I am not in agreement with this at all. Does he have a mechanical drive in here? Does he just have the solid state drive? There is a hard drive cage, but no caddies. So what good is it? Yeah, I think this is not good. Somebody's clearly doing this for the money, and not for doing a service for their customers. That's what I can conclude by just looking at it. They didn't care enough to do something that they would show off proudly to other people. I don't see anybody posting pictures on Instagram or Twitter. Look at my new build that we sell over here at LYTE Gaming PCs. Is it LYTE? T-LYTE? I don't know what it is. LT? Look, all I know is the pictures on this pamphlet don't show the panels off, and there's a reason for that. I would change the case. I would even consider switching this out to an Intel just to get away from the fan on the chipset. But that's just me personally. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the Ryzen chip or board and the RAM that he's got configured here. But just knowing there's that extra fan, I mean, if you count how many fans this computer has, and we include the chipset fan, and we include the power supply fan, and we include the 3 fans on each graphics card, there's 6, 7, 10, 13, 15, 17, 18. I'm getting to 18 fans on a computer that's that small. It doesn't really make any sense. If anything, it's causing the computer to be louder, to use more power, and to actually run hotter. Each of those fan motors generates heat, and by disrupting the airflow, the system's not effectively being cooled by passing air. The air is being interrupted and diverted out the top. So that may benefit the radiator, but if he's not overclocking it, he doesn't need that. And you heard it powered on, it was very loud. If we take a video card out, we keep one video card in, pull the 3 fans from the bottom, so we have 3 fans in the front, the 2 fans in the back, this thing would be much, much quieter and probably cost a lot less money to operate. He does have the USB Type-C cable built into the I/O shield in the back of the motherboard, but unfortunately doesn't have one on the case. So I would put a case in that has the USB Type-C, because we are talking about a $5,300 build here. I wouldn't worry about it if it's a $1,000 build, but on a $5,300 build, he absolutely should be getting that. Oh, let's see. Get back to the chat room. Brian Lee contributes $10. Is my motherboard RMAs in ASUS's hands? What has your experience been with their RMA process? It's the same as everybody else's. What happened to me with ASUS is they kept my M.2 screws. So when I got the replacement board, I couldn't put the M.2 back in it. They didn't return the screws to me. So I wrote to them, and I was told that I wasn't supposed to include the M.2 screws. That's not considered a part of the motherboard. And you're instructed when you send the board in to take all of the non-motherboard parts off. But Gigabyte considers the screws part of the board. So I just made the assumption that the screws go on the board, that's where they belong. So I said to them they should clarify that, and they should know their competitors say otherwise, disagree with them on the definition of what goes with the motherboard, and that if the board came with the M.2s, you should be returning it the way it arrived. And you need to change your process, because I can't use the board. My customer's been waiting, and now they're going to have to wait again as we wait for screws. And then Brian Lee contributes $5, tells me I missed his prior contribution. Yeah, I apologize for that, Brian, but I think we're caught up there. ASUS is good on their RMAs, just like everybody else. It's all pretty much standard practice now. Patrick Grissaw says he's got a Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus for a couple days, and so far no issues. Very cool. Yeah, I'll be getting mine here soon. I think it just came out on the 25th. Wait a minute. It shouldn't even have come out yet, did it? That's still 2 days away. Well, regardless, I'm just getting a regular S22, not the Ultra, and I don't think it releases until the 25th. So then a couple of days after that, I should have it. So I'm looking forward to it, because my phone battery is not lasting very long these days. Is the customer a cryptocurrency miner? No. No, he is not. Zero Core says, Kerry, when I purchased my $3,600 workstation, $800 of that turned out to be labor costs. Is that normal or too high? I can't say. It depends on what it was you had built and the complexity of it and who built it. There is no dictated amount of labor given. There are different expenses involved depending on where you live and different taxes and overhead costs. So the only way you can determine if that's normal is you need to shop around and see what other prices you get. My friend Ron says he got his S22 Plus yesterday. I wonder how everybody's getting their S22s. Wasn't the release date on the S? I guess not. I thought it was February 25th. Maybe they release different models of the phones at different times, but I'm just getting the regular S22. No Plus, no Ultra, none of that. So maybe it releases later. I don't know. It's not important for me to be first, but I pre-ordered it, so I don't know why I wouldn't be getting it at the same time everybody else is. Mendel's Photography with $1. Thank you, Mendel's Photography. David Austin with $20. Said, I never heard, did you get the i7 processor I sent you? I don't recall, how long ago did you send an i7 processor to me? I don't recall getting a processor in the mail. Patrick Grissaw says he's with T-Mobile. He got it early because the release date is the 25th. Ron says he ordered the S22 and got the Plus version instead. I don't want the stylus. I don't think the regular S22 has the stylus, and I think the other ones do, don't they? I really don't want that stylus. I'll never use it. Jose Donato says, hey, Uncle Kerry, nice haircut, looking sharp. Yeah, you know what I did yesterday? Got the old buzz cut. S22 Plus has no stylus? Okay, well that's good to know. Only the Ultra has the stylus. Yeah, because I don't think there was room to put the stylus in the smaller phones. But regardless, I wouldn't use it, and it just seems like something people are going to lose. So I don't see the point of it. Barry Klein says for $5,300, you should feel like smoking a cigarette every time you're done using the computer. I think he does. Might be up to a pack a day. S2 Plus, more storage, 256 gig. Amazon included a free upgrade to 256 gig if you pre-ordered. So I have a regular S22 that is 256 gigs at no additional cost because that was Amazon's incentive to pre-order that phone. XCDN Forces says, hey Kerry, I enjoy your show very much. Is there a good way to block Windows 11 from being accidentally installed besides disabling the TPM in the BIOS? Not that I'm aware of. I guess there's a registry tweak. I don't recommend people go in and do that. It's much easier to just go in the BIOS. Is there some reason you don't want to turn it off in the BIOS? Hey, there's Jeff Van Fleet joining us. Hi, Jeff. William Dawson says the RTX 2080 Ti's he has are going for $575 to $1,100 at this minute. Oh, I was thinking it was a 3080 Ti. Bad. That's my bad. It's a 2080. That's not a big deal. I thought these were, for some reason, I had it fixed in my head that this was 3080. Now I got to look again. No, they're just 2080s. Okay, yeah. That makes this build even more insulting. going to just step over to the sink. This computer's very dusty. It's all over my hands. Yeah. So, yeah, 2080s. Jeez. I was thinking they were 3080s at that price. My bad. Thank you for mentioning that. I saw 2080 and my brain registered 3080. So instead of bars of gold, they're bars of silver. Regardless, yeah. But even still, that should maybe be, based on what I'm seeing, maybe this is a $3,000 build. It looks like they padded a lot of profit onto this. Although I don't know what the 2080 Ti's were going for a year ago, if they were going for more or they were going for less. Hey, there's Mark Baggett. It says, Carrie, I'm sorry I haven't been around much lately. Been busy with work. Keep up the great content. Thank you, Mark. Good to see you. If you're busy with work, it's a good excuse. Work should always come first. I got to move away from this computer, though. The smell of it, the litter box smell is really... If I move away from it, it's not bad, but when I'm leaning forward into it like that, it's a little bit much. A little much for me. The Founders Edition launched at $1,200. Yeah, I don't care what it launched at. What I'm kind of curious what the marketplace value was a year ago, just to see how much profit this company made. It seems he might have been sort of taken, for lack of a better word. But you know, it wasn't a good time to buy a computer. And I'm sure I would have told him I was too busy, and if he was building a gaming computer, this wasn't the time to buy. And I would highly recommend you postpone it until things get better. And, you know, he wanted it. So this is what happens. He got impatient. He wanted it. He was going to have it. And, you know, he got a computer that I think he overpaid for what he got. I don't think it's built very well. And, you know, it ends up in my shop in a year, which... You shouldn't need a computer, and a new computer shouldn't need to go to the shop for at least 3 years, in my opinion. Now, every once in a while, part can go bad. That happens. But it should be very unusual. Daniel Sprouse joins in. Hey, Daniel. Who made this PC? This is made by a company. This is their pamphlet up here. I don't know anything about them. I've never heard of them. You guys ever heard of this company? Apparently, this customer was watching another YouTube content creator who recommended this brand. So, I never heard of them. So I don't know how big or how small of a company they are. Keith says on eBay, the sold listings for the 2080 Ti on this card are about $1,100. So if you got $2,200 worth of graphics card, I'm not sure which CPU he has. I'm not sure which solid-state drive is, but I know nobody goes to Ryzen processors because they have money. They're the budget processor. XPG is a budget RAM manufacturer, ADATA. Nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't seem right that you would mix budget parts on such a high-end build, nor does it make sense that, you know, the EVGA 1,000 watt power supply is a good budget 1,000 watt power supply. But on a build like this, I would expect, first of all, you got to figure 500 watts per card. So you got 1,000 watts just on the cards. Then you're going to have another, say, 250 for the rest of the system. This should have been a 1,300 watt power supply, and it should have been a Seasonic or something higher end to go with the high-end graphics cards, and it should have been put into a high-end case. So this is a real kludge of a combination of budget parts and non-budget parts, and then sold as though everything was high-end at that price. Hey, there's Michael McFarland, contributes whatever that amount is. Thank you. He's in another country there, so I don't know what that is, but thank you for contributing to the channel, Michael. Manual hard drive, I think it's mechanical hard drive. Mechanical hard drive. Michael's in the Philippines. So what's that currency in the Philippines called? Is it a peso? Aaron Computer Tech says, looks like their build fee is between $80 to $100. That's a pretty cheap build fee. So then if that's the case, then where's the $50, $100 worth of parts? They must be marking the parts up. Michael says, yeah, it's Filipino peso. I know he's contributed in the past. I just couldn't remember what that was. And Jack says it's 50 to 1, 50 pesos to $1. Is that right? Doesn't matter. But anyway, I didn't have a problem with it. The customer says it's not booting for them. And the first thing we did, we fired it up and it booted. Why is it a dual boot? I got to ask the customer what's going on with that. And well, I've got it. Does the customer want me to change the case out? Does he want to stick with a Ryzen processor? Does he want to stick with the liquid cooling? Does he want the system to be quieter? I mean, there's a ton of questions that I have now. Or do you want me to just put it all back together and bring it back? Which is fine too. I thought I was doing a diagnostic today along with a repair, but the first thing you have to do before you waste any time trying to fix a problem is verify the problem exists. You understand why I do that now? If I just started taking things apart and taking the customer's word for everything, it would have all been for nothing. The only reason I pulled the video cards out is I wanted to see what make and model they were. Well, I could tell what make they were, but I couldn't tell what model. And I really wanted to pull the bottom card out anyway. And there is a ticking sound happening from one of the fans. And I'll need to turn the system back on with the video cards out so I can better isolate where that sound is coming from. It could be something's dropping into the fan and making contact with it, or it could be that one of the fans is failing. There's $5 from Perry Heralambidis. He says, Origin would have been a right choice for the PC maker. All their parts are high-end, but it would still be better to have built it. Well, like I said, he did inquire, and I told him I wasn't taking any orders at that time. Bradley says, did you get Doug Betts figured out last week? Yeah, so we got everything working. One of the rear case fans, the brand new fans that I bought, the RGB worked, but the fan wouldn't spin. It's a brand new fan. So we didn't have time to really do anything about that but leave the fan out. And it was in the back anyway where there were two, like this one has two. So we left we left one of them in. And the RGB controllers I bought were the right ones, and I spent 4 hours cable managing that. It took me 4 hours. But it got done, we got it loaded up, and Doug has it at home now where I'm sure he is configuring it to his needs. I did take some video of it turned on with all the RGB lit up, There was also a Corsair logo in the middle that I didn't realize was there. That needed power as well. When I was doing the cable management, I realized, oh, there's a whole nother set of RGB I didn't even know was built into the case. So there's RGB that highlights every USB port, the power button, and a Corsair logo in the middle of the glass. So I was like, oh, didn't even know that was there. But I got it all hooked up. It was all working. But 4 hours, all I did was stand here and cable manage for 4 hours. But it's done, it's out, and hopefully Doug will put it to good work. Planet Cryos with another contribution of $10. He says it's a little off topic, but was wondering what cable modem you prefer, if any. What I do is I call the cable company that provides my internet service, and I ask them to recommend to me what modem that is either Motorola or Aris, A-R-R-I-S, either of those two. I had a Netgear cable modem, and it was big, it was huge, and it got really hot, and it was flaky. It worked good for about 6 months, and it got flaky. So I won't buy another Netgear cable modem. I like their routers, but I like their switches. I don't like their cable modems. So Motorola or Aris, and I would just ask them, you know, call them on the phone and say, which one do you recommend? Give me a specific model number of Motorola and give me a specific model number of Aris. Then I go on to Amazon and I take a look at them. Usually one is white and one is black. You got to choose which color you. That'll generally decide if I get the Motorola or if I get the Aris. If I want all black, I may not have an option for one or the other in that color. Otherwise, I look at the price and the reviews and then base my decision on that. But I always make sure it's one the cable company supports so that they can't say, sorry, we can't help you, you know, because it's not our modem. As long as it's one that they recommend, they should still be able to help you for support if something should happen. I'm going to step off screen here for a second and grab another Gatorade. Oh, there's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 fans. So there's 19 fans in the system. I didn't realize there was a 4th one there. That's unusual. I just saw that walking over. 1, 2, 3, 4 fans. Winston Liu contributes $1 Canadian. Thank you, Winston, as always. Top Playa Hater says it's like a clown car of fans. It kind of is. Kind of is. Yeah, I would definitely take the liquid cooler off of this thing. It seems a waste to put it there. I don't know what CPU that is. Again, I'd have to power it up, maybe go into the BIOS. I wonder if there's another M.2 under here. I mean, at this price point, I would hope so. And there's a second. Oh, look at the angle that's on. Ooh. Oh, that's not good. This USB 3 connector is sitting on an angle because the fan is in a way, and it's bending the entire connector on the motherboard. Ooh, that is not good. Another reason those fans should not be there. It's horrible. I have to suspect maybe the ticking sound is this tail of the zip tie that they left hooked up. And I think it might be interfering with the fan. It's sloppy. It's very sloppy. Very unprofessional. If somebody said my kid built this, I'd say, yeah, that's what it looks like. But if you tell me a professional PC building organization built this, I'd say they're not a professional PC building organization if that's what they build. If that's the quality of work they do, I would strongly recommend avoiding them. Have your kid do it. Your kid will do a better job, more than likely. Perry says, Carrie Sabrent, tech support is horrid. I got news for you, Perry. Most technical support is bad. Has anybody got a good technical support experience within the last, well, since the pandemic in the last 2 years? I haven't heard of a good technical support experience in a long time. I don't think they want it to be a good experience. They don't want you to call again. Sport Card Fanatic says there must be a lot of dust inside with all them fans. There's a significant amount of dust. That's why I had to go wash my hands. But we're in Arizona. We get dust anyway. There's not much you can do about that. Perry says, Sabrent told me my NVMe can't be firmware upgradable. I don't know what you're saying there, Perry. So, yeah, it is what it is. We'll do what we can do to help them. We'll see. Now that I know what I'm working with now, I can be more. I can offer some guidance to the customer. You know, on the one hand, if he wants to save money, we just put it back together, leave it alone, and figure out what's going on in his house because it's booting up for us. On the other hand, well, I've got it. If he wants to take advantage of that, and put this thing on a significant diet. We could shave some weight off of it. He could sell one of the graphics cards and recoup some of his losses. We could even build another system with the other graphics card. He can have a spare. Have I missed anything here? Let's see. Okay, so anyway, any other questions you guys have, I'll be happy to hang out. I'm not going to go too much longer on today's broadcast. I was going to simply diagnose this and figure out the repair, but now I'm more curious as to what other hardware is that it's made up of. I'd like to know what CPU he's got and what size and how many NVMe drives he's got. Michael Young says, who makes a good all-in-one PC? I don't think there is such a thing. You know, an all-in-one PC is a laptop. That's all it is. It's just a different form factor. But you can't really work on them. You could maybe add some RAM and change the solid-state drive, but that's pretty much it. So when they're mostly considered disposable because of the limitations of repair. And I don't recommend all-in-ones. I never have. I probably never will. Unless you want something that's disposable. It's not something that, generally speaking, that people have for more than 5 or 6 years, because in that time, it either becomes so slow and sluggish that it costs more to fix than it's worth, or that they just fail and out of warranty, and they can't be fixed at any price, because it's all proprietary parts inside, apart from the hard drive the storage and the RAM. Those are the only things that are serviceable. So, wouldn't recommend one. No different than getting a laptop. Keith Benjamin says, what do you do for downtime, or do you get paid for downtime? I don't know what you mean by downtime. I'm self-employed. There's no such thing as downtime. I've got to send emails to make arrangements with sponsors, to make arrangements with customers. I've got phone calls coming in from my business clients who need support from whenever they need it. I've got bills to pay and laundry to do and dishes to wash and dinner to eat and dinner to cook and floors to sweep and floors to mop, bathrooms to clean, and I have to go to the store and buy the laundry detergent and the dish soap and the aluminum foil and the toilet paper. I'm the only person. I have to do all of it. So I don't know what you mean by downtime. Carrie, is Friday on? What does that mean? I don't understand the question. Master Singleton says, what are your thoughts on the Be Quiet for case fans? As I'm planning on buying some case fans. They're fine. They're just fine. I haven't had any problems with any of the Be Quiet case fans at all. But I haven't had really any problems with the Corsair fans, apart from the fact that when I was buying them returned at Amazon, somebody swapped them out from what was in the box, and they weren't Corsair fans in the Corsair box. And then I had that one DOA Corsair fan. But once they're up and running, even on the Corsair 200R, which is my staple case, I think I've had one case fan go out in the last 3 or 4 years, and I've got well over 100 of them out there in the field. Nashua makes good fans, but I think they're way overpriced. Although the Corsair RGB fans weren't cheap either, but they were a better deal than Nashua's. Nashua makes a good fan, but I don't know that it's proportionally priced for what you're getting, in my opinion. You know, you could buy 2 lesser quality, if you consider Nashua quality, for the same price as one Nashua. And I suspect that just because it's a cheaper fan doesn't necessarily mean it's going to last less. Am I going to be on this Friday? There's always a show on Friday. Has there been a Friday without a show? I don't understand why you're asking the question. Yeah, Corsair is fine. Fantex makes good fans, I think. Be Quiet makes good fans. Nashua makes good fans. I would just stay away from the no-name brands, the brands that you're not familiar with. And nothing lasts forever. The issue is, Peter Laycock's going to work. All right, Peter, have a good day at work. Thanks for stopping in. When you buy these fans, you have to understand that even Nashua fans fail, right? The problem is when you spend a lot of money, these failures become less tolerable. I mean, what's the point of spending more money if you just end up having to swap it out again and replace it? What was the point? So I find that when you're dealing with customers that are spending a lot of money on products, the more you spend, the higher the expectation is that you're not going to be troubled with problems. And that justifies spending the extra money. In the case of Nashua fans versus other manufacturers, it's not rocket science, they're just fans. So it's not like there's an epidemic of bad fans except for Nashua's. Nashua has bad fans too. So, you pick what you like and you roll your dice, and that's what it is. You will not avoid a guaranteed situation where you would never be troubled with an issue with a fan simply because you paid more for it. Arnold wants to know what's the latest with M. Betts and his SSD transfer. Who's M. Betts? Doug Betts? I haven't spoke to Doug since he let me know that he got home safe, but other than that, I haven't talked to him. That's a question you probably want to ask him, I guess, right? I don't know what. If you have a question for me, I'd be happy to answer it. Ian McLeod says, my scythe fans are lasting well. Good point. Yeah, I haven't had a bad scythe fan yet. Other questions, guys? Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up tonight. It's 11 o'clock in the evening here in Phoenix. Got about 337 of you watching right now. Michael Dane says, Carrie, on video card, what fans system is better, 2 or 3 open fan or a turbo fan type video card? Michael, these are called axial fans, and the single fan at the end of the card is called a blower style. There is not such a thing as better. There's different preferences. Is it better to have a pickup truck or is it better to have a sedan? It depends who you ask. Who you ask. The triple axial fans, like what you see here, are generally quieter, but the blower style fans are better if you have a case that doesn't have good airflow. Like in the Xenos build, it was highly recommended to me that I use a blower style fan, but they do get louder. There's not a good or a bad there, it's just a preference. My friend Ron said his new dog just turned 1 year old yesterday. Right on, time flies, man. Holy cow. John Paul Bacon says, I'd like to know what CPU it is as well. Maybe go into the BIOS just so we can see the specs. No, I'm not going to put it back together until I talk to him. I'm not going to put a video card back in and hook power back up just for that. It's not important at this stage. Once I get the customer on the phone and I get some answers to some questions, from that point then we can decide whether or not I'm going to simply return the computer to him or if he wants me to move forward with building it to my value system. If he just wants me to return it, it really doesn't matter what all the rest of the parts are. It's irrelevant. It's not our business. But if I'm going to move it into another case, I need to know what I'm working with, and I need to understand if there's room for improvement in those areas of solid-state storage and RAM and CPU. But if he doesn't want me to do any of that, then it doesn't really matter what it is. It can be anything. It's irrelevant to have information that's of no benefit. Remember, I'm doing this for a living, folks. I have computers going in and out the door. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 computers right in front of me waiting on service. And then in the other room, there's another 20 waiting to be built. Then there's another 10 for veteran giveaways that I haven't gotten to yet. So spending time looking at irrelevant information for no apparent purpose other than I'm curious isn't a luxury I have without causing other customers to wait longer and potentially take their business somewhere else when they're done waiting. So if we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. But there's no point in poking around in it at this stage. It doesn't really matter what it is. He paid way too much for it. I can tell you that right now. If he would have contacted me and said, "Can I get your advice on this build?" I would have told him that's way, that's about $2,000 over what it should be. If he was paying $3,300 for this system, $3,500, I could see that from what I'm gathering. But there's no AMD CPU underneath that heatsink that's worth a $2,000 difference. There's no M.2 NVMe drive that he's got in there that's worth that $2,000 difference. I mean, unless there's an 8 terabyte drive in, NVMe drive in there. But he would have told me if he had something like that. I think he wrote down it was 64 gigs of RAM and a 500 gig NVMe drive, and that's it. I don't think there's another NVMe in there. Or I don't know, but it's a dual boot. So unless I pull that heat sink off, and again, I don't want to go tearing apart something that I'm held accountable for. If I break it, I bought it, unless the customer authorizes that. So that's why I'm not doing it right now. But if he does authorize it, I'll film it, and we'll look at it together. Sherry McFarland's joining us. Hey, Sherry. Rupen says, Carrie and gang, have a good night. It's 1 a.m. here in Ontario and getting sleepy. Until Friday, then. Right on. Hire someone. It would be great to just sit on a couch and tell other people what to do. Oh, I can solve your problems. You just need to hire somebody. There's a lot of legal implications in hiring somebody and responsibilities. And you have to understand that there's a lot of money in inventory here. And just hiring some stranger who might steal from me, who might screw up the jobs, the time I have to take to interview them, negotiate a salary, and then train them is all time that I could be spending working. So in that case, it would actually set me further behind. People who don't really have an in-depth knowledge of something tend to oversimplify their answers because they're just looking at the surface. They're saying, oh, that's water, it's the ocean, it's wet and it's cold. I know everything you need to know about the ocean. No, you don't. There's sharks, and there's coral, and there's jellyfish, and there's riptides, and there's currents. It's like the oversimplification caused by a lack of information where people should be asking questions instead of running off information that they haven't verified and coming up with a solution. It's called oversimplifying. It's not helpful. Joe says, I wish I lived next to you. I can do it. I have a lot of people tell me they can do it. And then when I see the work they do, I go, no, you would never. You don't get to decide if you can do it. You can decide if you want to, but I'm the one who decides if you're up to the task. You don't get to decide that. If only. Can you imagine going on a job interview and saying, say to the job interviewer, I could do your job, and then tell me if you get that job. I don't think that's going to work. What if I had 2 carries? Well, then the world would implode. The whole universe would collapse in on itself, I'm pretty sure, if there were 2 carries. That wouldn't be pretty. Ron says, sorry, I was supposed to help you, but I let you down. That's your health is far more important than my work. I don't hold that. Sherry says Carrie and anti-Carrie. Yeah, one will have like a mustache. Bizarro Carrie. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that. That sounds horrible. Do customers ever watch the live stream of their builds? Yeah, usually they do. Linda Hudson says, thank you for your live stream, Carrie. Well, thanks, Linda. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's good to see you. David Martinez, hey, Carrie, just got home from work. Listened to you on my way home. Great video. Hey, thanks, David. Ray Cutt says, I like your candid replies. My mother was that way. That's how she talked to me. She didn't beat around the bush. She just would flat out say, whatever you're talking about, I'm not interested. Literally, word for word. If I said, hey, I have an idea, she might say, let's not, and say we did. She didn't mess around. She gave it to you straight. She was above and beyond honest, even if it meant hurting your feelings. And I guess, if that's how I was raised, then that's how I became. F1 says, what are the specs of your personal rig? This rig right here is the streamer. It's not my personal rig. It's sort of the community rig for the channel. But that's my birthday build. You can look that up here on the channel. Then I have an office computer. That's running in 11. What did I put in there? I put in 11900K in it. I don't remember. It's over at Studio A, but it's freaking fast. This system here is a 9900KS. Straight shooter indeed. Yeah. When kids at school would say, don't talk about my mother, I'll beat you up if you talk about my mother. I never had that attitude. My attitude was, if you want to talk about my mother, just go over to my house and tell her to her face. I dare you. I dare you. I never felt the need, I saw other boys get very, very defensive about their mothers. I never did. My mom made it clear that she could take care of herself. So I was just like, hey, say that to my mom. I dare you. They never did. I never had to defend her. She wasn't, she's a strong lady. I got to get a little closer to the screen so I can see this a little better. Do I like the mini case builds like the Intel Nook Canyon series? I don't think I built in a Nook Canyon series. I like the regular little Nooks. But again, they're a very unique solution to people who require that solution. They're not necessarily universally good for everybody. They would probably be a bad solution for other people's needs. So it depends on the individual's needs. And that's why having the freedom of choice is so wonderful in the PC world, that you can have so many options to choose from and so many different price points to meet all the different needs and wants and expectations of each individual. Really putting the personal in personal computer versus, Apple pretty much all makes the same thing. You're going to get the same as everybody else. It's more of a communist kind of thing where everybody's the same and everybody's equal, except that you pay a lot of money for it, the same as everybody else. But you don't get a lot of customization. You don't get a lot of personalization on an Apple. Certainly nowhere near the personalization you get on a PC. So PC is genuinely a personal computer. And that's not a dig. That's just how it is. There's no denying the facts of what I've just told you. That doesn't make one bad. Some people prefer to be like everybody else, and some people don't want to be like anybody else. If you want to be like everybody else, Apple's right for you. If you want to stand out and be unique and express yourself and have something that's meaningful to you and has certain hardware characteristics that are important to you, then the PC is obviously going to be very appealing for somebody like that. So a person like me, the last thing I want is to have it what everybody else has. I'd rather not have anything at all than to have what everybody else has. That's just how I am. So obviously I'm not a fan of companies like Apple that want to build everything the same. If there was a car company that made one model of a car and you couldn't customize the color, you couldn't customize the features, this is it. This is the one car, this is the one way we make it in the one color, I wouldn't buy that car. Now back in the day, when Henry Ford was making the Model T, he famously would say, you can get a Ford Model T in any color you want as long as it's black. Another true story. He was trying to make the cars affordable, and they were all built the same, and they were all priced the same, and he made, I don't know, millions of Model Ts in the early 1910s? You know, you think about that. Think about making over a million. I don't know how many million Model Ts he made. A lot. So he wanted the average ordinary person to be able to afford a car. Prior to that, you had to have some serious money to buy a car. And there weren't a lot of roads, by the way, either. What is the computer I'm fondest of? I don't have those feelings about computers. There's no emotion in it. It's a logical machine. There's no emotional attachment. I'm not fond of any computer. Just not. Now I'm kind of curious. How many Model Ts were sold in the first year? On October 1st, 1908, the first production Model T Ford is completed in Detroit. And between 1908 and 1927, Ford would build some 15 million Model T cars. It was the longest production run of any automobile model in history until the Volkswagen Beetle surpassed it in 1972. That's a heck of an accomplishment. But they were all the same. You got it a certain way. And that's how it came. Michael McFarland says, I don't own a car. The problem is parking. Yeah, in the Philippines, is it? I wouldn't know. I've never been there. Carrie, am I pushing Windows 11 to PCs that can support it, or wait till Microsoft works everything out? I put on whatever the customer wants. So far, no customer has asked for Windows 11. And when customers ask me why should you go to Windows 11, I have no answer. Do you? Why should you go to Windows 11? Anybody? Is there something you can do in Windows 11 you can't do in Windows 10? And is that worth the cost of the upgrade if you have to pay somebody to do it for you? If you're a business owner, and then you've got to pay your employees, you've got to retrain your employees, and for what? So the question isn't really so much, are you doing it? The question is, why would you? And I've yet to hear a good answer as to why somebody would. But if a customer said they wanted it, I mean, there's nothing bad about it. But at the same time, we have an established operating system that works fine. So I don't understand what the point is of having the other one. Planet Cryos with another $5 says, I'm most fond of the hot dog build, the one he's got. Ace says, what do I think about the Newegg problem going around? It's the same. Nothing's changed. Newegg's just a little... when I worked over there at Newegg, when I did some stuff for them, there's severe communication issues between departments. So I'm not surprised. I don't really have any thoughts about it other than nothing's really changed. Michael McFarland contributes 500 Filipino peso. He says, this is for helping the vets. Yeah, I'm going to, thank you, by the way, Michael. I'm going to focus on giving away those machines I've got. I hope to get to it next week. I mentioned giving them away, and I've only had 3 people nominate themselves. So I have to make a video dedicated to that so it gets the attention. There should be more than 3 people nominating themselves. So clearly the word didn't get out. So I'm going to make a dedicated video that will attract more attention. I'm not going to pick between 3 people. Well, other people apparently didn't even know that the giveaway was happening. So thank you for supporting that. This was something else the owner told me. You notice only 3 of these little thumb screws came out of the other side panel. He said that's how it was shipped to him, with one of these screws missing. So I don't know, did it fall out and it was in the box and he didn't see it? Or did the factory where they built it, did they simply fail to not put it on and they dropped it and didn't see it? I don't know. I'm sure the case came with 4 screws holding the glass in. Another reason to replace it. And why does it even have glass on the other side? Anyway, there's the other side's embarrassing. Would you want a glass panel to showcase this right here? I wouldn't. Nick Clark says, the teacher in chat says hello. I look forward to summer to tune in more. Right on, Nick. Well, we'll be glad to see you some more. Michael Young says, Carrie, I will send my all-in-one to repair next week. It's got no power. Yeah, well, if it's in warranty, great. If it's out of warranty, I think you're going to be in for a shock. So reports are coming in that Russia is now attacking the Ukraine. You know, during a pandemic, they also want to have a war. So apparently human beings just exist to kill each other or find a way to die. It's very, very sad we live in such times. You better fill up your gas tank, man, because gas prices are about to go up. There it is. Oil hits $100 a barrel. U.S. stock futures slide after Putin announces military operation. Bitcoin's price falls along with stocks. Yep, here we go. A lot of people make a lot of money off of wars. It's a sad day. It's a sad day that we, as human beings, resort to barbarism. That is sad. War is not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about who's left. Ray Smith contributes $20. He says, hello from Lake Havasu. Hey, Ray. Thank you for supporting the channel. We'll make sure Ray is blue in here. Our thoughts, my thoughts, go out to the folks in the Ukraine. You know, this clock up here that I bought, this is a piece of art that comes from an artist in Ukraine, and there are a lot of Ukrainian artists that have handcrafted beautiful stuff on Etsy. The only way you can get the lights that are in this, I guess you guys probably can't see that, is out of Russia or Ukraine. So I imagine a lot of Etsy sellers based in Ukraine are probably sort of put out of business if there's a war going on. I don't know how they're going to get mail out. Well, nothing I can do about it. It's just sad. Stealthmode says he's got chat friends in the Ukraine. DJ Matrix says, is the black box hanging out in RGB controller? It's a fan and RGB. It's powering in the fans and providing the RGB controls to the fans, yeah. All right, guys, it's about 11:30, so I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll talk to the customer tomorrow, and I'll try to get some time here to go live. It might be another late show. As soon as I can, I'll go live. This Friday, I'll be doing the show solo, and I have another build. This build is going to be for Edgar, and Edgar wants sort of a budgety, you know, a carry budget of a 10th gen, like an i5 10th gen. No. Is it a 10th gen or 11th gen? We're doing a 11th gen budget build. I think an 11600K on an H560 board, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what we're doing, in a Corsair 200R. I got a fresh shipment in of 200R cases, so I'm happy till I run out, but I should be good for the rest of the year on cases on 200Rs. And I also got a bunch of cases in that are the MX410 cases from Cougar, because I didn't know if I was going to get any more 200Rs. So now I've got more cases than I know what to do with, but hopefully I'll work my way through them, and my goal is to run out of everything by the end of the year, and then the channel is going to be shifting more to product reviews, interviews, and repairs, and less on the builds. So the builds were sort of a 2021 and 2022 theme, And as we step away from the builds and explore other opportunities for video content, we'll see where that leads us. But the builds are a little long in the tooth. They're quite repetitive, and I need to mix things up so I stay somewhat sane. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all the contributions. Thanks to Peter Laycock. Thanks to Ray Smith and Michael McFarland and Planet Cryos. Thank you for all of your contributions and support. I wish YouTube would fix the viewer activity tab so I could see all the contributions that happened more than 20 minutes ago. But it is what it is. Hopefully caught everybody and gave you the credit and shout out you deserve for showing such courtesy and supporting the channel here. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. And yeah, I'll have an update on this tomorrow. We'll get some information from the customer and we'll go from there and we'll follow up. I'm hoping the customer says, hey, go ahead and put it in a different case and build it the way you want. Then we can take a look at everything that's in there. But otherwise, if he just wants me to slap it back together and save some money, I'm more than happy to do that too. Although I'm still going to strongly encourage he leaves one video card out and sells it, because at the very least, he's not getting any benefit from it. I can't imagine there's any benefit to those two cards running an SLI. Master Singleton says he bought the case fans via your Amazon link. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do have links in the video notes for anything you want to buy at Amazon, for all the parts, the tools that I use, as well as links to buying Windows 10. The Windows 10 is on sale right now. You can get it for like $11.32. I'll make a video on that as soon as I have time, but for right now, just know that the Windows 10 Professional, using my link and my coupon code, will get you that product for under $12. It's a pretty good deal. All right, well, I will see you all again very, very soon. And until then, bye for now.